Good morning, good morning, good morning. I will ask if you could please take your seats. If you can, we're going to get started with our press conference this morning. I'm Robin Merrick. I'm with Southern University, and I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. This is an amazing day on the bluff at Southern University. Please, one round of applause for Southern University. And for those of you who may not know, we are probably on one of the most historic sites of our campus here on the bluff overlooking the mighty Mississippi River. And that's what we're here to talk about today, restoration of our bluff area to save our university. First, we will hear from our President Chancellor, Dr. Ray L. Belton. Dr. Belton, we are excited that you are joining us today. We're sad that you're going to be leaving soon, but we're excited for all the things that are happening for you as you move forward in the next steps of your career. Dr. Belton.
Well, good morning to everyone, and allow me to bring greetings on behalf of the administration, the faculty and staff, and most importantly, the students of Southern University and A&M College. I am particularly pleased to be surrounded by so many advocates and supporters of our great institution. And I won't call you all by name, but I do think it appropriate for me to express my joy in having with us the Commissioner of Higher Education, Kim Hunter-Reid, who literally is a champion for higher education and bringing exceptional leadership in shaping and ensuring that all of us collaborate in such a way as to advance the interests of the state of Louisiana. Give Kim a round of applause. And I saw Senator Price and Senator Barrow here this morning. But I also think and feel compelled to recognize someone who has, throughout his tenure, really helped define higher education in this state. Someone who, from day one, gave indication that he's going to support these vehicles that ultimately shape students throughout the great state of Louisiana. And I'm speaking of none other than Governor John Bell Edwards. And even as late as yesterday, he evidenced that by acknowledging our faculties across the state of Louisiana in providing for us as administrators the wherewithal to be able to retain and recruit additional faculty in light of the fact that we're going to be able to acknowledge their value in the form of salary adjustments. So again, thank you, Governor. Let's give him another round of applause. You know, we have benefited from many. I have several of my colleagues here who contribute on a day-to-day basis in advancing the goals of Southern University, vice presidents, chancellors, and alike. But I really wanted to as well recognize the honorable members of our Board of Supervisors. And I know several of them are here. I saw Honorable Member Des Moines Rutledge and Dr. Leroy Davis, and there may be others who are here. But I also wanted to recognize our chairman of the board, and particularly Chairman Edwin Shorty. You know, I guess I've never really had the occasion to introduce him, if you will, but I'm gonna give it a shot, because Chairman Shorty has been with the board some time now, but having assumed the role of chair, you know, his presence is already being felt. In particular, his leadership and his decisive judgments are being impactful as we advance our goals as an institution. You know, everyone knows of his long-standing presence as a constable in Orleans Parish, but I'm not sure if you knew of the fact that he was a deputy sheriff and was instrumental and had a passion for advancing servant leadership within his community, to the extent that he represented the likes of a rehabilitation center and a housing corporation. And his leadership has extended itself, you know, to Southern University at A&M College, in keeping with his student-centered focus and the depth to which, you know, he thinks about the entire community, and particularly as it relates to where we are today in terms of safety and ensuring that this environment is safe and conducive to learning. You know, when we think about what this pending announcement means to us, you know, we're talking about an issue in terms of the instability of our banks that has really imposed on the university and has compromised areas of the campus to which students reside, have compromised their safety. And so today is really a momentous one that it's just an imperative in terms of our appreciation of its worth. And that leads me to, again, recognize our special guest, in speaking of Congressman Troy Carter. You know, we have, and Congressman Carter's not so far removed from the state legislature, and I have to tell you that we have benefited greatly from the efforts of himself, Senator Barrow, as I mentioned, Price, Senator Cleo Fields, and the entirety of the legislative delegation. And I understand Representative Carter is here, Senator Carter, and Representative LaFleur, and Ted James are with us this morning. Let's give them another round of applause. Well, I could say to you that the university has benefited much in terms of their diligence. And even this year, their efforts literally will enable us to transform the physical plant of this campus. But this project in and of itself, the identification of resources that mitigate the severity of the erosion that is taking place, it will stand out amongst all of those other efforts. It will ultimately enable us to define Southern University for another 142 years at the least. And I can tell you, we are singularly grateful for this opportunity to embellish and to mitigate the long-standing issues that we have along the banks of the Mississippi River. So without further ado, I would like to, again, recognize my chairman, Chairman Edwin Shorty, for his leadership and his efforts in terms of making sure that this day came about today. Let's give him a round of applause. That's it.
I don't want to miss this opportunity to publicly thank Dr. Ray Belton for his lifetime of commitment to this institution. From teaching at Susler to being chancellor at Susler to being our first president chancellor, Dr. Belton has committed his life to educating students at this institution. And I want to thank you for your years of service, sir. I appreciate everything that you have done, and we will be calling on you. So don't think this is a full retirement. All right. So I do want to thank our elected leaders. Dr. Belton mentioned my senator, Garrett Carter, who's standing next to Senator Ed Price. I wasn't going to leave out the senator whose district I live in. But look, my name is Edwin Shorty. I'm the current chairman of the board of supervisors for Southern University. And Dr. Whitfield is the current vice chair. My chairman emeritus, Des Moines Rutledge, and Dr. Leroy Davis are joining us. And they provide unparalleled leadership and support for the faculty and administration of this university. And I want to thank them for their service. I also want to thank the governor. The governor has been a great friend to this institution and came into office after draconian education cuts had happened and made it a point to make sure that education was funded, realizing that the way that we get our most talented and bright students to stay is to invest in them and to invest in our institutions of higher learning. And there is not a time that I see him that he doesn't renew his commitment to this institution and ask if there's anything that he can do, and allows me to bend his ear at length, and I do appreciate him for that. As the current president of the United States is fond of saying, don't tell me what you value, show me your budget, and I'll tell you what you value. And John Bell Edwards has, through his budgets and policies, invested in the state's future. And Governor, I want to thank you for your constant support and your leadership and friendship. Now, I want you to know that Southern University appreciates you, and as my Marine Corps Vietnam vet dad would say, all of the Army guys aren't bad. Some of them okay. But a little bit more than a year ago, I was very blessed to attend the swearing in of my very close friend, Congressman Carter. Someone who I'm proud to say who's led the way in a number of things that I've been able to do in my life, holding elected office in Algiers, but for him being the first African American elected to the House from that district, first African American elected to the City Council from that district, and to be in the Senate from District 7. He allowed other individuals to follow in his footsteps. And on May 11th, we traveled up to D.C. and I got to see my friend get sworn into the United States House of Representatives. And after returning home, we discussed at length the needs of the Louisiana 2nd Congressional District. And he also made it a point to say, what are the needs of Southern University? And we talked at length about things that are important to this institution. I'm a SUNO grad, so I always keep SUNO near and dear to my heart, so we talked about SUNO, and a Southern Law grad, so we talked about the law school campus, and we did talk about the ravine. And little more than about 2 months after his swearing in, we came up to a discussion hosted by General Honore. And in this very same room, we listened to stakeholders from the Army Corps of Engineers, the Governor's Office, DOTD, talk about what it would cost to resolve this issue. And for those who don't know, North Baton Rouge flows through this campus and through that ravine. And over years, erosion has caused the ravine to constantly expand. And now we have several buildings that are in danger of falling into that ravine. Now, obviously, this was near and dear to General Russell Honore's heart because one of those buildings is the ROTC building. And that ROTC building, that particular program, has been there since the 50s. And he wanted to make it a point to show what was happening and how close the ravine was coming to the building. And we needed to make sure that, look, it's an expensive project. And not only do you have to stifle the erosion, but you have to shore up the buildings and renovate the buildings because they're starting to have problems based on that ravine expansion. And General Honore made it a point to talk to us about the history of that ROTC program. For those who don't know, that program was started in 1954, and some 1,200 officers have been commissioned after successful completion of that program. Among those officers, General Edward Honor, who's deceased, who was the first SU ROTC grad to be promoted to general officer. Also was Cherie Cataria, the first SU female graduate to achieve the rank of brigadier general. And General Honore understood that the proud history of the SU ROTC battalion was in jeopardy. So after that meeting, on the ride back, the congressman said, I'm going to do what I can from a federal standpoint to see what we can do to resolve this issue. And he's my friend, so we talked for a very long time about a number of things. So it's one of those things where he said, all right, put that in the back of your mind. If you can do something, I'd appreciate it. But look, if you've been out to D.C., you never know what can get accomplished and what's going to get mired in the quagmire on Capitol Hill. And to his credit, in January, he called me up very excited. And he said, look, I think we may have a solution. I was in a meeting with other representatives, and there is a program that if there is a 20% benefit to agriculture, this program is set up to stop flooding on farms. You can use this program possibly to fix the ravine. And he was very excited, again, because I know how things can go in D.C. I said, okay, let me know how it goes. But shortly thereafter, he said, look, I talked to Sean Wilson, I talked to folks at Ag, I talked to DOTD, and I think, based on the fact that Southern University is first and foremost an agricultural college, and that Southern runs its agricultural extension program from this campus, and that Southern runs its livestock show from this campus, and that the nation's grain market passes by this campus, and near and dear to the governor's heart, we have a chicken coop. There's a 20% benefit to agriculture by resolving the flooding and erosion issues on this very ravine. And I wish that each one of you could have been on the call to hear his excitement to be able to deliver for the constituents of the 2nd Congressional District. And he is like that every time we talk about programs and benefits to this community. I want to make sure you all understand that there have been historic failures in funding to HBCUs. And this governor and this congressman understand that, and they do what they can to make up for those inequities. For years, the law was separate but equal. And we all understand that while the facilities may have been separate, they were never close to equal. And it is always inspiring to have leaders who understand that and don't just pay lip service to it. So at this point, after thanking my friend for everything he has done, I want to thank my other friend, the governor, and invite him to come up here and welcome him well, Governor of the State of Louisiana.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you. It's great to be here on the Bluffs today, celebrating something that I think is extremely important for the future of this institution and for higher education in the state of Louisiana. I'm excited to join our Congressman Troy Carter for this important announcement. I want to thank President Belton for his leadership. I congratulate you on a career of exemplary service to the state through higher education and wish you nothing but the best going forward. Thank Chairman Shorty, not just for the introduction, but for his service as chairman of the Board of Supervisors for the Southern University system. It is still, by the way, the only HBCU system in the country. I do want to thank Commissioner Reed for being here and for her leadership as well. A number of legislators are here. Thank all of you. And I know that Chairman Shorty was talking about General Honore, but he actually is here. So General Russell Honore, thank you very much for your service to our country and your continued service to the state and to your alma mater here. Investing in infrastructure is obviously a top priority for all of us, but quite frankly, investment requires money, and you've got to be able to find it, and it comes from different places and different amounts, and it takes all of us working together to maximize the opportunities that we have. So my administration, principally led by Dr. Sean Wilson, the Secretary of the Department of Transportation Development, we committed a long time ago to securing additional funding on the state level, but also on the federal level, and developing and delivering meaningful projects with those resources. And before we talk about the new money, several years ago when we really didn't have much, we came over and committed and have invested $12 million on related projects with the ravine and how it was undermining bridges and roads. And then that was a $9 million project, an additional $3 million project on an emergency basis. And Secretary Wilson really was the one who put all of that together. He is not here with us today. He asked me to apologize for his absence, but you might want to know that he is the president of AASHTO. Now, this is the American State Transportation, I don't know exactly what it stands for. All the secretaries of transportation across the country are represented by AASHTO. He's in Seattle, Washington, doing his job as president. By the way, he is the very first African-American president of AASHTO. And when I named him Secretary of Transportation, he wasn't just the first African-American transportation secretary in Louisiana. He was the only one in the country. He's got 2 degrees from the Mandela School here at Southern University, so his absence today is painful for him, but I do want to thank him for his service and the success that we've been able to have because of his work. Part of that success, as I mentioned, is working with our federal delegation to secure funds for state priorities, and this is a prime example of that, what we're talking about today. So earlier this year, with the help of Congressman Carter, and I'm going to stop there for just a minute and ad lib. So this is an opportunity that's being made available to us because of the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act, which Congressman Carter helped shape. Then he voted for it. It did pass. It's the bipartisan infrastructure law, and I want to thank Senator Cassidy for voting for it as well. But then he went further than that, Congressman Carter did. He outlined opportunities that were in that bill, encouraged us to take advantage of those opportunities by applying for grants. We applied for a grant that we're about to talk about, and then he helped us to make sure that we were successful. And that's what that federal-state partnership looks like. At least that's what it's supposed to look like. And in this case, it did. So I am very thankful for Congressman Carter for the help that he provided in all the ways that I just mentioned and many more to make sure that we were successful in not only applying for, but being successful in a grant to the United States Department of Agriculture, the Natural Resources Conservation Service, to address the erosion issues occurring along the ravine here at Southern University. And the program that you have highlights the attention that this project has had throughout the course of my administration. So there are $7.6 million received through this grant, which was made possible again by President Biden and his administration's bipartisan infrastructure law. And it will be allocated to the erosion improvements at Southern's ravine. And we have been assured that the full application will advance when that federal process catches up to where we are in delivering the project. And the project is a $35 million project in total to construct permanent erosion control measures to stabilize the ravine, which is the outfall to an approximately 852-acre watershed of Bayou Baton Rouge. Much of North Baton Rouge drainage comes right through this campus. And that is a good thing because we need to drain Baton Rouge, but it means we got to keep that under control. Because quite frankly, if you allow erosion to continue, it threatens vital infrastructure here, not just the roads and bridges that I've already mentioned, but utilities and critical buildings that house very important programs here, the ROTC, the law school, I mean, you name it. The Health Services Center, which is critically important, as we all know. So this project is anticipated to begin in earnest in fall of '24, with construction estimated to take 2 years. And it stems from an emergency order I issued in 2017 to improve the drainage at F and H Street, and we talked about that a little earlier, and $9 million went into that effort already, in addition to the $3 million to repair an emergency repair that's under construction now on the ravine near the Health Services Center. So all of this is tied together. And by the way, there is an additional $10 million in the money bills that I signed into law earlier this week for funding to provide permanent erosion control and improved drainage at Scotts Bluff behind the Wade Building. So I want to thank the legislative delegation who's here for that work. And that includes Senator Fields, who is not here, because I know that this was something very important to him. So I just want to again express my gratitude to the congressional delegation, to Congressman Carter in particular, to our legislative delegation, local officials, and the folks here at Southern University. And I look forward to continuing to work every single day over the remainder of my term, because we will not run out of things to do. And we're going to be working very hard. I also want to thank all the folks at DOTD, not just Secretary Wilson, for their service to our state and to Southern. Today's the first day of hurricane season. And look, we don't know what we're going to get, but we know what we've gotten over the last 2 years, and that's 5 hurricanes that made landfall, 2 of them the strongest ever to make landfall in our state. The forecast is for an above average number of storms and above average in terms of the intensity of those storms. So I'm going to encourage you to pray that we're protected from hurricanes this year, but also prepare yourselves and your families. Get a game plan, make sure that you are ready, and that your neighbors and your family members know where you're leaving, if you're going to evacuate, where you're going, how to get in touch with you, and all of those sorts of things. But please go to getagameplan.org. To give you all of these ideas. There'll be some things there that surely you will not have thought of that will be very important to prepare yourself and your family for this hurricane season. So thank you all again, and I'm going to introduce and ask to come up our Congressman, Congressman Troy Carter, the 2nd Congressional District, and again thank him for his work in securing this funding.
Thank you all very much. I guess one of the advantages of going last is that most that needs to be said has been said, and that's a good thing. But let me first start by recognizing my former colleagues in the legislature. We're blessed to have with us Senator Regina Barrow. Stand, please. Be recognized. Senator Ed Price. Senator Gary Carter, State Rep Delisha Boyd, State Rep Vanessa LaFleur, former State Representative and Regional Director for SBA, Ted James. Give him a round of applause. We're also joined by Deidre Roberts, who is the Regional Director for USDA, who is in the House, and certainly no stranger to this great institution. I guess about a year ago, and I recognize these people, and Senator Fields is not here, but I want to give him a shout out as well. About a year ago, I just got elected to Congress. We're invited to a meeting, and as Chairman Shardy indicated, we drove up together and we talked about things of need in the 2nd Congressional District. on the way back, we talked even more. And in the ensuing months, we talked even more. But through that meeting, I remember very vividly having this iconic leader in our country, in our state, General Honore, stand at a podium just across from where I'm standing now. And he told a compelling story. Then he took us out to the field and he showed us the danger. And he said, along with the engineers, if something doesn't happen, where we stand will drift into the ravine and into the river. And those words never, ever lost me. I never stopped thinking about the incredible loss that this great institution that's meant so much for so many could be lost if we didn't do something about it. General Honore is a great leader in so many ways. And I serve him no justice by only talking about one. But on this day, he set a fire in me that couldn't be extinguished. He set a fire in many of us that couldn't be extinguished because we very literally saw something of great value to our world. This university that has provided a solid education for professionals doing it all over the country. Something we couldn't afford to lose. And the governor talked about partnerships. And I will tell you, while I'm proud to deliver this $7.6 million check today, as the governor indicated, DOTD, $12 million, $9 million, $3 million. These are heavily sought after dollars. And members of the legislature, as a former member of the Senate, I know the tough job that our senators have to do when they sit in Reverend Fisk, what our state reps have to do when they sit in Ways and Means, when we try to figure out how to get these dollars into our communities. So the partnerships are real. I want to stop and thank Governor Edwards for his steadfast commitment, for standing up and being that voice of reason and providing resources when the cameras are rolling and when they're not. Give him a round of applause. Arguably one of the best governors we've ever had in the state of Louisiana. Give him another round of applause. And in his absence, Dr. Sean Wilson, one of the, if not the smartest individuals in the transportation and infrastructure field that this country has to offer. So talented that his peers of other secretaries of DOTD elected him as their president. A man that never sleeps and never forgets a square inch of anything in this state. When you talk to him about anything infrastructure, he says, well, that's 6 cubic feet away from the ravine that runs 13 miles northwest of, like, wow. He knows it all, and he commands it with a sense of authority that lets you know he not only knows it, but he loves it, he feels it. And we're blessed to have him. And when we looked for pots of money, of how are we going to do this, to find this money, we kept hitting roadblocks. Well, it doesn't quite fit for that. Doesn't quite fit for this. But we got this infrastructure money. Maybe. And the hook finally was to find the USDA agricultural niche. And we immediately called Sean. And I called General Honore. And I talked to people that had been in the meeting. And I talked to our illustrious chairman who has done an incredible job. Give my dear friend, Chairman Shorty, a round of applause. A 2-time graduate of this great institution. I razz him all the time because he didn't go to Xavier. Another great HBCU. But another day for that. Today's Southern's Day. And I told Sean, I said, Sean, I think we've identified a pocket of money. But we've got to move quickly and stealth to get it. And when I tell you, this dude, Dr. Sean Wilson, moved quickly, sharply, put his pencil on it, and collectively we put together a package that I was able to go and fight for with pride because I knew the quality of the paperwork was unimpeachable because Dr. Sean Wilson put it together. So I was able to go to my colleagues and make an argument and find a niche. And I remember talking to the chair of appropriations, Rosa DeLaura, who the governor has met on several times and has commented publicly that she's never had a governor that was more in tune or more adroit at discussing the needs of his state than Governor Edwards. That says a lot, because we have a lot of governors. But when the chairman of appropriation recognizes the talent that Louisiana has, that's a big deal. When the President of the United States recognizes the talents that Louisiana has, a la Cedric Richmond, a la Ted James, a la Deidre Roberts, a la Shalonda Young, a la Mitch Landrieu. And I can go on and on and on about the impact that Louisiana has and the leadership that we have, two of which very bright, shining stars right here in our midst are products of Southern University. Ted and Deidre, give them a round of applause. So I say all that because I want to emphasize that no one does this alone. It's a collective effort and it's a team play, and it began in this room with General Honore standing at the front of this room along with Senator Fields, myself, the president of the university, Dr. Belton, who is an incredible leader, and I'd like to ask you to join me and indulge me in giving him another big round of applause as well. Someone that bleeds Southern University, and we can never say thank you, sir, enough for your leadership and commitment to the students, the faculty, staff, and all who touch Southern University. We applaud you. So when we talk about the partnership, when we talk about all the people that touch this, it all began with General Honore standing at, did I say Representative Barbara Carpenter? Representative Barbara Carpenter. Hey, listen, that's called self-correction. Barbara Carpenter, who is not only an outstanding legislator of this area, she also is a fundamental, pivotal part of this institution. Bless you and thank you for your service. So it began in this room with General Honore giving this speech about the danger of what would happen if nothing happened. What would happen if we left this and said, oh well, it's Mother Nature. We've got other problems. As I tell people often, as elected leaders, from the governor, the state reps, the state senators, members of Congress, we don't have the luxury of looking at just one issue. We have to juggle multiple issues, multiple requests for funding, multiple pulls for issues of importance. And that's our job. And when we're lucky and blessed, not in that order, blessed and lucky, we're able to find solutions. And this is one of those days that because of the Biden-Harris administration, because of the historic passage of the infrastructure law, because of the ability to move the ball with people who love Louisiana, because of an effective governor and great leaders like General Honore and incredible leaders in the state Senate and House, we were able to deliver this today. This is not a one-off. This is not a me-my. This is an us-we victory. So as I take my seat, I want to remind everyone, elections have consequences. Elections have consequences. Because we have President Biden and Vice President Harris in the White House, we did what 116 Congresses failed to do. We passed $1 trillion+ infrastructure bill. Now that's trillion with a T, not to be mistaken with an M or a B. That's real money. And it's already started rolling into this state. We have some $2.3 billion that have been allocated already to Louisiana transportation, climate, environment, and environmental issues. The monies are flowing now. And this 7.6 is real. It ain't gonna bounce. And it goes to the efforts that's already been there, but it gives us the ability to complete a project that so desperately needs to be done. So I thank you all for being here. I thank you for the opportunity to regather with good news. And lest I miss anybody, charge it to the head, not the heart, because God knows I'm appreciative of the partnerships and the teamwork it took us to get here. So to the governor, to our chairman, to the chancellor, to our elected officials, to the Honorable General Honore, to those legislators who are here that are not, today is a great collective victory for Southern University. God bless you all, and thank you for being here.